clear? Can someone confirm? Today we will finish the seventh chapter, which is on International Financial Services Center, which also is called as the IFSCA. So this is the authority that controls most of the financial transactions on a global level. Just like United Nations is a culmination of multiple different countries coming together on a policy level, you have the IFSCA, which is the Financial Services Authority. So you will have RBI-like entities and major banks connected to this particular authority. And it's very important to understand how this particular entity works. And this is a new topic. So highly probable for both old as well as new syllabus students for getting questions on this particular chapter. So IFSCA is nothing but the authority that controls the investments in capital markets from NRIs and foreign investors. This authority creates policies relating to the regulation and supervision of the overall market infrastructure, whether it is stock exchanges, whether it is clearing corporations, whether it is depositories. It is the function of IFSCA to create policies for all these entities where money is flowing internationally across the borders of countries. So this authority has three major objectives, and it is created for three major reasons. Number one, to regulate the international financial transactions, to accelerate globalization, and to accelerate growth in different countries across the different parts of the world. So your GIFT SEZ, that is your Gujarat International Financial Tech City SEZ, which is in the state of Gujarat in India. This is the first IFSC set up under the SEZ Act. So GIFT IFSC is part of the IFSCA authority, and there will be multiple different special economic zones that will be set up exclusively for exporting services, especially financial services, across the planet. So the Gujarat International Finance Tech City is the first SEZ, that is the financial services hub, which is created exclusively for export of financial services. And the GIFT SEZ was created in the year 2015. Though it is not completely operational, the main objective behind the GIFT SEZ is to provide financial services to countries outside India. India has always been known as a country for cheap labor. So whatever services is provided out of this particular international financial services center, all of this will be 100% tax exempt for 10 consecutive years out of 15. So tax exemption has been given irrespective of whether they make profit or not. Any unit, a unit is basically, you can assume, as a entity inside the SEZ. So special economic zone is the SEZ. Let's say you have this entire area as the SEZ. One portion will be given for the SEZ units, which will specialize in financial services and provision of financial services. One portion will be for infrastructure maintenance. One portion will be for electricity generation. One portion will be for manufacturing. Another portion will be for support services. Another portion will be your reception and your face of the SEZ. And this entire area will be developed by a person called as the SEZ developer. they will have to procure license from the government of India to develop this entire area. And any manufacturing of products and any services that are provided from within this area will not be sold inside India. They will exclusively be sold outside India. So all of this activity that is occurring will be exclusively to encourage exports. That is why it is called as a special economic zone. The person developing this area, construction of infrastructure, is called as the SEZ developer. These individual entities, for example, inside Bagmane Tech Park, you will have multiple companies like Accenture, Infosys, Cognizant, TCS. All of these are SEZ units. And whatever services they provide will be outside India to international clients only. But if they end up providing services to Indian clients, that will be considered as a import for the Indian entity that is taking these services from these particular SEZ units. So that is how these units are structured. So that is what is called as a SEZ unit. And that SEZ unit will get 100% tax exemption. Whatever profits they make for 10 out of the 15 years, first 15 years, will be tax exempt. And you will also get 9% of the book profits as your minimum alternate tax. That will be at a flat rate. So whatever book profits you make, you will not be taxed at the company rate. You will be taxed at a flat 9% rate. So that's also another benefit for setting up a SEZ inside these special economic zones. And another benefit for the unit is that whatever dividend you pay from April 2020 onwards, that will not be taxed in the hands of the company. So there used to be a double taxation effect on dividends declared. Company also has to pay tax, as well as the shareholder also has to pay tax. But if you are a SEZ unit, which is providing international financial services from this particular SEZ, you will only have to ensure that the shareholders pay the tax. You don't have to pay any tax on the dividend that you have distributed to your shareholders. So that's also another benefit. Plus, no GST at all. Because you are exporting all the services outside India, there's no requirement for providing any GST on the services that are being exported. In addition to this, you also get state subsidies, you get PF contributions, as well as electricity charges for all the services that you are providing from this particular SEZ. So basically, these are the benefits that are for the SEZ unit. Now, as an investor who's investing in this particular SEZ, you also get a few benefits. Whatever interest income that you are receiving by lending money to this IFSC unit, it is not taxable at all. Plus, whatever long-term bonds and rupee-denominated bonds that you are investing in this particular special economic zone, they will be taxed at a flat rate of 4%, which means, let's say you are a non-resident Indian, use a bond, and if Accenture issues a bond, they will pay interest. This interest will become income for the NRI. So NRI has to pay income tax on this interest income. And that income tax will not be at the slab rate of 10, 20, 30. You only have to pay a flat income tax rate of 4% as an investor. So that's another benefit for you for investing in this particular SEZ. Also, you are not eligible to pay any GST since they are not deducting any GST. So no GST is leviable. And also you get exemption from securities transaction tax, which is levied on the short profit. So these are some of the benefits that you will get for investing in any of these IFSC tenders. So all these taxes are going to be at a nil rate of 0%. whether it is DDT, whether it is LTCG, whether it is STCG, whether it is a commodity transaction tax or whether it is a security transaction tax. All these taxes are exempt for both the companies as well as the investor. So this is a big advantage here. In addition to this IFSC, International Financial Services Center, is going to be very important in transforming India into a financial services hub for the near future. And most of the larger companies in the financial services sector are going to slowly move into these type of larger SEZs. So that is going to help us in the economic growth. And these are some of the benefits that you will get when you are investing in any of these IFSCs that are set up. So you get, number one, rupee becomes more widely used across the world. A lot of capital inflow from international investors. There is significant employment generation due to the capital inflow. India then becomes a significant player in the region and it increases India's global influence. As a result of which, we can then also leverage the money that we have earned into developing other sectors like bullion exchanges, aircraft and ship leasing, etc. That way, India not only becomes a services hub, we can slowly transition ourselves into a manufacturing hub also. So both manufacturing and services sector, both will get a boost as a result of these international financial services centers, the first of which is set up in the state of Gujarat. So this is the timeline of how this particular initiative was created. First, they inaugurated it in the year of 2013. Then they became operational in 2015. The act was passed in 2019. Then they assumed the power from 2020 onwards. And then the framework for financial services started from last year, September 2022. So this is the sequence of events that has occurred in India for the GIFT IFSC that has been inaugurated. And we are going to create more and more SEZ units inside this particular GIFT IFSC so that more and more companies can provide their financial services to international clients. What are some of the activities that occur inside this IFSC? So you will obviously have banks which will be set up inside this particular SEZ. You'll have capital market entities like depositories, brokers, clearing corporations, and branches of stock exchange. You'll have mutual funds, AIF, and CISs. All types of indirect funds will be set up here. Insurance entities will also be created inside this particular SEZ. And in addition to this, we'll have other financial institutions which will also create this particular IFSC as a end-to-end solution provider for all types of financial services. Now, in addition to this, since this particular IFSC also requires policy making, the policy making is handled by the International Financial Services Centers Authority, which is called as the IFSCA. Now in India, both SEBI as well as the Reserve Bank of India are going to be the major regulatory authorities who are going to cover how this IFSCA is going to function. So three major authorities that are going to advise this particular IFSCA. First is RBI, second is SEBI, and third is PFRDA, Provident Fund Regulatory and Development Authority of India, Securities and Exchange Board of India, and Reserve Bank of India. All these three entities are going to create regulations, and this IFSCA will then exercise powers that are provided to these three authorities, and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, IRDAI, that also will be providing inputs to the IFSCA, and it will regulate all of these financial services transaction across these four sectors. So you have the banking sector, you have capital markets, you have the provident fund and pension fund sector, and you have the insurance sector. These are the four major financial sectors of India, and all the services that are provided in the banking sector, capital market sector, provident fund sector, and insurance sector with respect to investment, as well as the other services provided like acceptance of deposits, giving loans, investing in securities, all of that will be governed, and policies will be made by the IFSCA, that is the International Financial Services Center Authority, under the IFSCA Act of 2019. So this authority is going to assume all the powers of these four domestic regulators. So whatever powers RBI has, SEBI has, PFRDA has, and IRDAI has, all these powers will be then transferred to IFSCA from only the international perspective. Printing of currency notes, regulation of capital markets, that will still be done by RBI and SEBI. But the international services part, those powers will now be taken over by IFSCA. So majorly your fintech, your financing services, your lease services, your insurance services, all of these will be assumed by the IFSCA. So IFSCA will become the unified financial regulator of the government of India. It will develop financial institutions, financial services, and financial products, and it will be given the powers of these four regulatory authorities. And the GIFT IFSC, that is in Gujarat, that will also be governed by this IFSCA Act of 2019. So all the major banking regulations, financial company regulations, IFSCA regulations, capital market and listing regulations, and other bullion related regulations, all of these will now be overseen by the IFSCA. In addition to this particular authority has, just like all the other chapters, powers of civil court, which we have already discussed in the SEBI chapter. They have the same powers. They have the powers of III and RRR: inspection, investigation, and inquiry, regulation, creation of rules, and ensuring that the required infrastructure is provided for the development of these financial services in the country. All of these powers are going to be given to this International Financial Services Authority, which will be coming under the purview of the central government. Now, we already know the four regulators that are going to transfer their powers. So first is RBI. All these acts and the powers under these acts will be transferred to IFSCA, which is the International Financial Services Center Authority. SEBI will transfer all its powers under these three acts. IRDA will transfer its powers under these three acts. And PFRDA will transfer its powers under the Provident Fund and Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority Act of 2013. So what are these financial services and products that will be provided by IFSCA in the future? First is securities, which is coming under the power of SEBI. Contracts of insurance, which is coming under the power of IRDA. Deposits, which comes under the power of RBI. Credit arrangement, which also comes under the power of RBI. Foreign currency contract, which also comes under the power of RBI as well as SEBI. And any other financial product notified by the central government. So currently, whatever these authorities are providing financial products and services, all these powers will now be transferred to the IFSCA. Some new products are also being notified now, which are not in existence previously. So 2020 onwards, you have something called as aircraft lease, which is used for operating helicopters and airplanes by domestic as well as international flight service providers. So they provide a leasing facility to these companies that are operating aircraft. So that type of leasing facility for companies that don't have the money to buy these aircraft because aircrafts are very expensive, they provide leasing facility for them. Indigo as well as Akasa Air uses these aircraft lease for operating domestic flight services inside India. Then you have bullion for gold and silver spot delivery contracts. So T or T plus one delivery basis. You can buy gold and silver contracts for profit or loss. You also have a bullion depository receipt, which is similar to a ADR or a GDR, which we'll be studying later. So instead of buying securities from companies, you will be buying gold and silver from these companies that have maintained gold and silver reserves. So those are BDRs or bullion depository receipts. You also have your traditional operating lease for ship companies who are
deposit.
Yes, Manu?
Bullion deposit.
Bullion depository receipt is very similar to a American or global depository receipt. So what is going to happen is a company would have certain gold or silver reserves. Gold and silver prices are expected to go up. So based on how many reserves they have, they will issue a receipt for the investor. The investor will invest in this receipt, and every year, as the price of gold and silver go up, depending on that price, suppose investor invests in 100 depository receipts of 1,000 rupees. So you have invested 1 lakh rupees in this company. Like this, the company has taken money from 100 investors. So every year, let's say at the end of 1 year, gold goes up by 3%. The same 3% will be returned to you as interest / dividend by this particular company that will be paid as a dividend to these investors. So just like companies will pay you dividend for investing in equity shares, companies are now going to pay you dividend for investing in their gold and silver reserves. And this receipt that you invest in will be called as a bullion depository receipt. Are we clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So in addition to this, you have your typical shipping and operating leases also. So if you are any person who is currently engaged in aircraft and domestic flight services or shipping services, you are transporting goods from across countries through India to other countries in Southeast Asia, you can take these financial products, you can take benefit of them by investing it in the GIFT IFS. In addition to this, we also provide financial services. So in summary, you have GIFT IFSC. They provide financial products and financial services. They are located in Gujarat. And what is the full form of GIFT? Does anybody recollect? Gujarat. Okay, let's revise it again. So it is the Gujarat International Finance Tech City, and it's a special economic zone that is being created. So this is the full form of GIFT, and IFSC stands for International Financial Services Center. the authority that governs the International Financial Services Center is the IFSCA. IFSCA governs the individual special economic zone. IFSCA has been given the powers of four authorities: RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, and PFRDAI. It provides financial products and financial services. Financial products are traditional and modern. We just saw the modern products like bullion depository receipt, aircraft lease, shipping lease, etc. And you have traditional financial products like securities, deposits, etc. The financial services that are being provided are buying and selling of financial products, acceptance of deposits, making sure that insurance contracts are provided to you and sold to you as per the scheme of IRDAI, managing and ensuring that these products are offered correctly, establishing different investment schemes, ensuring that all the records of these financial products are kept on time, also ensuring that any advisory and other services in relation to purchasing and selling of these financial products are also provided to us on time. So these are some of the financial services. So you can say that financial services are services for buying, selling, and dealing in financial products. So that is what each of these IFSCs will do. And the first one is in Gujarat, and it's in the form of a special economic zone. So this is basically the structure of this particular chapter. Now, if this particular special economic zone wants to do an IPO or a rights issue or a further public issue, it has to follow the SEBI regulations that are already in place in addition to the Companies Act. So it has to follow all the rules that are already in place, which are called as your listing regulations. Since already we have ICDR regulations in place, for IFSCAs, we have special regulations called as IFSCA issue and listing of securities. So it is called as IFSCA ILS regulations of 2021. So if any SEZ unit inside this IFSC wants to issue securities and list the securities in a stock exchange, they can do so, but they have to follow these regulations, whether they are doing IPO or FPO, whether they want to do primary listing or secondary listing, whether they want to list their securities or depository receipts or debt securities, they have to follow this particular regulations. For doing IPO, they have to first satisfy the eligibility criteria. You should be a company inside the IFSC. You should be a company incorporated in India, and you should, if you're not incorporated in India, you should be a company incorporated under some financial foreign jurisdiction. So the criteria is you should provide financial services and you should either be an Indian company or a foreign company. Plus, you should have an average pre-tax profit of at least $1 million US dollars. Only then you can do a IPO. So basically, you should be a profitable company. Only then you can do an IPO. That is eligibility criteria number 1. You should also have revenue of 20 million, and you should satisfy other criteria established by the IFSCA. The amount of money you can raise is not going to be less than $15 million, and you should issue your shares at least to 200 people, and the minimum subscription is 75%. You would remember that minimum subscription for equity issue under ICDR regulation was 90%. But since we are trying to encourage the exports in India, they have reduced the minimum subscription to 75%. And whatever pre-issue shareholding the promoters and other people have, that will be logged in for a 6-month period. So basically, if you are an international financial services center and you want to do an IPO, you have to be a Indian company or a foreign company. Plus, you should be registered with the IFSCA. Plus, you should have pre-tax profit $1 million. Plus, you should have revenue $20 million. And you should only raise money of at least minimum $15 million through your IPO, and 75% of this money should be the minimum subscription. This is the criteria for doing IPO by any SEZ unit or any company inside an international financial services center like the GIFT IFSC. So if you want to provide financial services, you have to first find a location inside GIFT IFSC, set up your operations, get registered with IFSCA, ensure that you're profitable, you have so much revenue, and then you have to at least raise $15 million, and you should have at least 200 subscribers. If you satisfy all these conditions, you can do an IPO. But if you are not a large company, if you are a small and medium enterprise, you have different routes. If you are a SME, that is startup or a small or medium enterprise, you have to at least ensure that you have only started 10 years ago and you have not exceeded a turnover of the 20 million that is mentioned here. Plus, you should also ensure that you are going to generate employment for our country. You are going to create wealth for the investors, and you have a scalable business model. So basically, you have to submit a project report, and you have to submit this project report to the GIFT IFSC as well as the IFSCA. If they find that your business is scalable, they will allow you to raise at least $2 million instead of $15 million. And instead of taking money from 200 investors, you can take money from 50 investors since you're a small and medium enterprise. So they will allow you, if your business plan is good enough, to raise money of at least $2 million. And you should only be a fintech or a financial products company. Then only they will allow you to do so. So for small and medium enterprises, less than 10 years from incorporation, submit project report to the IFSC as well as the IFSCA, and you should raise at least minimum $2 million for your IPO or FPO, and you should raise it at least from 50 subscribers, and the minimum subscription is 75%, which is the same for larger companies. So whether you're a large company or whether you are a small company, you will both be given opportunities. But if you're a large company, you should be profitable and have at least 20 million revenue. And you should at least raise $15 million. And if you're a small company, you should raise $22 million and have at least 50 subscribers. That's the only difference in criteria. If you want to raise more money, let's say you don't want to raise 2 million, you want to raise 50 million, then you should have a sponsor who are promoters who should invest 20% of their money in your company. So some companies might get greedy and raise more money even though you're a small and medium enterprise. So if you come under that category, then you will have to ensure that 20% of your post-issue paid-up capital should come in from the promoters. And same minimum subscription rule of 75%, and 3 years of this particular investment from your promoters should be locked in. Whatever money the promoters are investing, that should be locked in for at least 3 years. If you're issuing equity shares in your IPO, if you're issuing debentures, then the rules are different. You have to obtain separate approvals. You can also issue unique bonds like masala bond for spices. And you should take separate approvals from the International Financial Services Authority. Only stock exchanges, depositories, banking companies, insurance companies, commodity derivatives exchange, and public financial institutions can operate inside this IFSC. No other company will be allowed to operate inside this particular IFSC. So you have to be ensuring that you are, if you are not a financial services provider, you have to be one of these entities in order for you to exist inside this International Financial Services Center. So this IFSC will have service providers and they will also have support service providers. Service providers will sell financial products and financial services. Other service providers will have to be one of these these 6. And if you're not a service provider or a support service provider, you cannot obtain permission to exist inside this IFSC, that is your International Financial Services Center. Once you set up inside this particular IFSC, you can only issue equity shares, depository receipts, you can issue debentures or debt securities, you can issue derivatives, whether index-based, commodity-based, or currency-based derivatives. So you can issue USD, INR derivative, you can issue Euro, INR derivative. These are called currency derivatives. You can issue index-based derivatives, like you can issue NSE or BSE Sensex or NSE Nifty-based index derivatives, or you can issue commodity derivatives. In India, there are only 6 commodities: gold, silver, almonds, cotton, steel, and turmeric. That is haldi. So only 6 commodity derivatives you can issue if you are an entity that is inside this IFSC. You can also create derivatives based on your equity share or any other security that is specified by the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So all in all, the key parts of this chapter are: what is GIFT IFSC? What is IFSC? What is IFSC-A? Which companies can list inside this particular IFSC? And what are the eligibility criteria for listing inside this particular International Financial Services Center? All right. Any questions from this chapter? Chapter is done.
So what is SPAC?
SEZ is a special economic zone. A special economic zone can be
No, sir.
exclusively. What is the question?
No, sir.
Can you-
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
I was
So a
wondering
special
what
economic
SPAC
zone.
is.
SPAC, is it?
Yes, sir.
SPAC are your enterprises that are inside this IFSC. So if you want to set up your company, or if you want to set up an entity inside the SEZ, then you are called as a special purpose acquisition company. These are companies that will operate inside the International Financial Services Center. So the structure is you have IFSCA on top. IFSCA will give licenses to IFSCs. IFSCs are typically set up inside a special economic zone. For example, the GIFT IFSC is set up in such a way in Gujarat that it only exports financial products and financial services outside India. If you want to be set up inside this IFSC, you have to be a SPAC. That is Special Purpose Acquisition Company. It is nothing but a fancy way of telling that you are a Indian company or a foreign company which has been approved by the Financial Services Center Authority to operate your financial services inside the International Financial Services Center. That is what a SPAC is. Are we clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So that's all the chapter is about. So let's wrap up today's class. Thursday we will do one more chapter on probably 8th chapter we finish on Thursday. And probably by next week we'll be done by the entire part A. And by end of October, I'm expecting to finish the entire syllabus.